with me here. I'm trying to remember the name of the second book of the Throne of Glass series. It's Crown of Midnight. What? I didn't Google anything. You Googled something. Shut up. So, for my last review with Crown of Midnight, I asked myself and you guys if you thought that Sarah Maas, by the way, it's Maas. I found out, I went to her book signing. She's so freaking gorgeous. She's like a fae. Anyway, it's Maas. But really, anyway, this time, I asked if Sarah Maas had bitten off more than she could chew. Basically, it felt like she had this immense, diverse, fantastical universe that she really wanted to get into, but in 2 books, she had really only skimmed the surface, it felt like, and I was worried that she wouldn't be able to do justice the immense depth of the world that she was inferring existed, if that's not too complex of a way of putting it. So did Sarah Maas bite off more than she can chew? At this point, I can safely say no, but at what cost? Without a doubt, Heir of Fire is the best book in this series so far, but I have heard glowing reviews for The Queen of Shadows. I haven't read it yet. I have it sitting on my desk, signed all pretty by Sarah Maas, thanks Sarah, and ready to be read. I've gotten I'm actually a good way there. I'm a third way there, and so far it's really good, but I'm not going to get into that, because this is what this review is about. Anyway, the point is, as far as where I am right now, it is the best book in the series. In fact, it is so comparatively better, it is ridiculous. Legitimately ridiculous. So before I really get into all the, my gosh, I love this book so much, because I do, I feel like I should first air my number one grievance about this book and possibly the entire series. Like I said, this book is way better than the first and second one, but at what cost? What even happened in 1 and 2 compared to this book? Did anything happen? Anything at all? I vaguely remember a competition and death a little bit. Somebody died. The demons. This book is so much better. In fact, the difference and change of pace is absolutely jarring. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Generally good. I would always rather a series get better than get worse. Though I'd prefer that improvement to be gradual and purposeful rather than just immensely better than the rest. Because then there's an issue of comparison. It feels like a different book, separate from the rest of the series at multiple points in time. Like, certain characters and plot points that happened in 1 and 2 feel like they didn't even matter. Like they didn't even exist at all at any point. So you start Heir of Fire, and it's this urgent flurry of characters, ideas, and plot lines that are massively important, all introduced at the same time. It's like hitting a brick wall. And I honestly believe, now that I've finished Heir of Fire, that it is not only possible, but probably better for the series as a whole if Maas would have introduced some of these characters, ideas, and plot lines earlier on in the series. And I believe this could have been conducted in a way that didn't give too much away. And because of this disconnect, it's possible to perceive this novel as a bit contrived. For me, though, mostly, it's an issue of overall disorganization. Like, suddenly all these things exist in this universe, and they are vital, and they are important to everyone and everything in this story. Which would essentially mean that books 1 and 2 are just build-up. Now, this is not the first time that a fantasy author has used an entire novel for build-up, but because of how immense this fantastical world just now got, books 1 and 2, which I thoroughly enjoyed, drastically pale in comparison. And that leads to a lack of correlation, of connection, especially where new characters are concerned. Like they just appeared out of thin air. They certainly don't feel like they've always been there. And they haven't been. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense to you. I know it sounds stupid, like, well, duh, why would you know about new characters before books 1 and 2? And what I'm saying is, because of the amount of new characters and new plot lines and new important ideas and things that we need to know right now coming all at the same time, I feel like it would have been a lot better of an idea to take some of those important things and kind of sprinkle them in books 1 and 2. You know what I mean? I'll break it down. There is a very sudden influx of important characters and plot lines that mess with the flow of the entirety of the series, and make the previous books seem, sometimes in comparison, unimportant. This very sudden change of pace isolates Heir from the rest, and creates a lack of overall series disorganization and lack of connection. However, I did talk to Christine about this. Hey Christine, how you doing? You are a beautiful butterfly. And she gave me a little perspective. I actually talked to a couple of booktubers because I was just curious. I wanted to know if I was the only person who felt this way, because to me it was like, whoa, this is a different book. And she let me know that originally Sarah Maas might have been going for a shorter series and then didn't know she was going to be extending the series, and so she kind of just made do with what she knew she could do, and that makes sense. It makes sense that she thought maybe it was going to be a trilogy or something, and then was like, no, this is 6 books long, and then kind of was like, well, if I'm going to make that 6 books long, I gotta introduce these things as quickly as possible. And if that is true, which I'm pretty sure it is, then even though I still take issue with this, I find that a lot more understandable, and I think that given the circumstances, she did really well overall. Because like I said, this was the best book in the series so far. So I'm not saying that this ruined the entire series for me, and you know what, maybe this is a thing that will go away if I reread it, possibly, or just as time goes on. This is just a first impression I got after, shutting the book for the first time and really kind of thinking about it. But that's it. That is literally my only complaint, and I know it's a long-winded one, I just didn't really know how to describe it to you. And I want to know what you think about that. I want you to, kind of give me some insight as well. Okay. Everything else was just amazing. From the get-go, I knew this was going to be something special, because normally I'm the kind of person who chooses favorites amongst plot lines, especially between characters. Like, I'll be reading this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to go back to what's-his-face's storyline. It's so boring, when you'd rather be with, what's her name or whatever. But this book, I was so invested in every single character's perspective. Like, seriously, I loved Manon and the Covens. The witches of this universe are so cool. They're crazy, but they're methodical. They're really, really straightforward, but kind of whimsical at the same time. Like, they fly on brooms and dragons, but not dragons. I forget the other word that they use. The bulls, the ones with the feet. And you know what? You know what I mean? I just consider me utterly enchanted with Maas's universe. Like, she is handling this all so well, other than the pacing problems, in my opinion. I am so completely invested in this series. It's actually pretty amazing. It feels like it's been a really long time since I've read a young adult series that I was just super, super crazy into. Like, I think the last one in memory, and that's not to say all the rest of them have been bad, but the last one in memory I can think of is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. But I can't remember the last time I actually cried, like tears down my eyes, cried over characters and worried, and where is this going to go? And I am just so incredibly impressed by the sheer immensity of a universe that at first seemed to me, pretty simple. Because like I said, the first book is kind of like, you go back to the first book and it's like, did things happen in the first book? There was a death competition, fighting. Dorian was actually like a love interest. Like, we were babies back then. Like, seriously, it feels like it happened an eternity ago, and that like the world was this size, and now everything is just exploding and massive. And anyway, I'm babbling at this point, but I loved Manon, I love the Covens, I love her depiction of witches, and I'm very interested to see where the Covens, like, where this goes, especially with Manon. What an interesting character to choose. She's not quite the, I'm secretly a good witch and a good person, because that's not really what's happening. So much as she does not fit in the prescribed box that the witches, specifically her coven, are supposed to fit in. I'm not arguing that she's a good person, and I don't think you should make that argument either, but it definitely shows that she harbors a complexity that her kind is not supposed to harbor. They're supposed to be very simplistic, methodical killing machines, but Manon clearly demonstrates that there's way more to the witches than what she has been raised to believe. When she was like getting the bull all like she was making sure they had the connection. All I could think about was How to Train Your Dragon when she, like, went and, like, touched it. All I could think is, like, you know, that scene where Hiccup kind of... And I laughed for a good, like, 15 minutes. I thought it was funny, but... Oh. I was so surprised by the shifting characters. Maas did really, really well with character development in this one. Especially with Dorian, but at the same time, like, in comparison to other characters, not Dorian. I don't know what it is with Dorian. I like Dorian now, by the way. I've come to like him. Finally, it only took me 3 books. But I feel like in every book, Dorian gets stinted so bad. He's, like, forgotten or something. I don't know. You have these beautiful lines of character development with, like, Rowan and Selena and Manon and Sorsha and Kale and Adian? Sure. Adian. But then Dorian's just off in his own little thing, like, angry, and then all of a sudden he's not, and then he's in love, and it's like, okay, whatever. But it's getting better, which is why I don't really... he's in this book so little that it didn't really bother me, and I think there's a lot... She's proven to me that there's a lot that she can do with characters. So I am not worried about him. I am excited to see where he goes. I was actually genuinely surprised by Adian, and I am so in love with this character. It's such a great character, and Kale, he's a good man, and I love that about him, but I don't know if you guys noticed, I think it's interesting that Maas made him biased against magic and magical people. Like, he's not just okay with this because Selena was his love at one point, like, or is, or what did he, that's a whole different can of worms, but he still has bias and prejudice against magic and magical people, and he's still working to get over that, because that's not something you just turn off. It's something you have to work for, especially if it was ingrained in you because of your culture and your society for so long. And I think that was just amazingly well done, and I really, really loved how she wrote Kale in this. I also loved Selena and Rowan's relationship. Just I love it. I love Rowan. I love Selena. I love how evenly matched they were in personality, but at the same time, their personalities weren't the exact same. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but it was just little details that Maas chose to put in there that really contrasted very, very nicely. Mostly like how they show compassion, how they show friendliness, like what is their version of passion, compassion, friendliness, but also like contentedness. And I don't know, I might be getting too far into that, but I really, really loved the way they started out to the way they end up. Just that entire flow of character development and how well they worked together was just very fun for me to read. Like, I liked all the storylines, but that was without a doubt my favorite. Like, honestly, I kind of like them better as friends. I love them as just battle partners, and like, yeah, we're besties and we can, you know, make fun of each other and growl at each other and beat each other up, and like, I don't know, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but and it's not even because of Kale. Like, I love Kale and Selena together, and I would be okay with Rowan and Selena, I would be, but it's not really because of any of those things, it's just because I really like the idea of theirs just being a very strong friendship, as well as just, like, that connection between two soldiers that have fought together. I love that. I don't even know, so much happened in this book, I don't even know where to go, or where to start, or where to end. Sorsha was an amazing character. I cried for 20 minutes, non-stop, in the middle of the night. You know why. Sorsha's a really good example to me of a character that probably should have been introduced earlier. Just a little more. Like, she came and went so quickly. Like, really, like that. And I just don't think that was the best course of action for her character. And it's not even because I'm sad because of what happened. I just don't think it was the best idea. That's like that contrived feeling I was talking about. I feel like of all the characters, of all the plot lines, she really should have shown up a little bit earlier. And not just like weird little cameos. I mean, like, just been in the series. So I don't even know how. I don't know. I'm not the writer. I'm just saying I think that would have been very good for her character. Because it just felt like she was only there for half a second. And now it's like, well, there goes Sorsha. That was fun while it lasted, I guess. And then you cry. Because what the heck? Why? Well, I know why. Because you're trying to show just how horrible the king is. But anybody else. Okay, not anybody else. In retrospect, she was probably the only disposable character, but still not cool. 20 minutes, Maas. 20 minutes crying. You feel good about that? You should be ashamed of yourself. Gosh. So getting in into the gods and goddesses and the fae of the world was probably actually my absolute favorite part. The folklore, as well as just like the kinds of creatures and their connections to each other, are so interesting. Followed by my favorite, I mean it this time, favorite part, which is the entirety of the final battle. Wow. Freaking amazing. Going back into Celaena's past and digging in that deep and just releasing her fiery powers and just how quickly she goes from soldier to regal soldier, and just, I am so impressed, you guys. Like, seriously, this book was incredible. So freaking good. Seriously. I'm worried because I'm running out of time and I have so much to say, and I hope that I've gotten it all out. But you guys, I was impressed with the characters, with the plot, with Celaena's past, just how intricately it was woven in there without taking up entire chunks in a way that was really useless, because sometimes that happens, when authors try to get back into the background of characters, and then they kind of take up a lot of space, and nobody really cares about a lot of the details they care about, blah, 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 and there's this whole uneven thing. But no, not with this. With Maas, every scene was important, and they all tied together so seamlessly and so beautifully, and there was actually a point where I began to tear up a little bit when she kind of let go of her past and was just like, no, it doesn't matter anymore. This is my responsibility, and I will take it, and I will save these people because I can. Oh, it felt so good. It felt so freaking good. Really did. And suddenly you understand the immensity of Nehemia's sacrifice, and you understand just the complexity of Celaena's character, and, along with other characters, but especially Celaena. I know I've been talking about other characters, but Celaena really had the spotlight on this one. I think she will for the whole series, and it's because she's an amazing character, and I love her very much. And I am just, wow, I'm blown away. Consider me very blown away. And there was another complaint, and I think, because this is supposed to be, I think, a 6-book series, I'm gonna kind of not let it slide, like I'm some kind of, like I'm a teacher, and I'm like marking off points or anything. I'm just saying, I don't really understand why the king gives a crap. Like, he's just evil, and I've never been a huge fan of evil for the sake of evil characters, and at this point I'm not, like, yeah, power, everybody wants power, oh, he wants power. I don't really get why he's doing all this still, and I don't get why is he such an awful person. Like, I get it, he's evil, like, but I would like to get a little more into that. I want to see what else there is. Other than that, so impressed and just so excited to really get into Queen of Shadows. And Maas, I am so impressed with you, and just, this is shaping up, like I said, this is shaping up to be one of my favorite young adult series ever. Stop it. It's really, really paving the way for me for other fantasy young adult novels, and I really hope that aspiring, young adult fantasy writers out there will really look to this as an example, because it is so good. Just so good. So good. Alright, I'm gonna go cry some more.